Who are you and what do you stand for? This really is a personal testimony from me, an ex-teacher, about COVID and the last 18 months. I used to, as I say, be a teacher. I taught A-level economics for 35 years thereabouts, and I was enjoying myself. I expected to carry on teaching for, I don't know, until I dropped basically, because I enjoyed it. Anyway, COVID came along, and with it all the lockdowns. I wasn't really worried about COVID, the disease, for obvious reasons, but I was extremely worried about what was happening in Britain, where I was living at the time. The government announcing these big changes to public life without really going through Parliament properly. And anyway, it sort of gradually trickled down into schools. So when we finally got back to work in September 2020, very quickly it became intolerable for somebody like me to work in a school that insisted on ridiculous things like following arrows in corridors and wearing a mask, and also enforcing mask wearing among students. So for moral reasons, I ended up quitting. I just couldn't go along with it anymore. I just did not want to be a part of it. So, as you can imagine, I'd like to think I was a good teacher, popular with students. A lot of people wanted to study economics. Exam results were pretty good, bearing in mind the students. So anyway, on my way out, there was a lot of animosity. A couple of times that I can remember being hauled into the head's office. One time, the head, the director of staff, which is basically tells you something about British schools, a person employed entirely to deal with personnel matters in a school with about 100 staff members. Anyway, she was there as well. She was called Claire, and I quite liked her. At least prior to this meeting, because I remember she'd done an assembly about this guy called Bonhoeffer, a German pastor who stood up against the Nazis, and he ended up losing his life for it. The Nazis eventually tortured and killed this bloke. So, I thought, oh, yeah, this person's probably a good egg, teaching young kids about Bonhoeffer and standing up for what's right, good thing. Anyway, during this meeting, they just couldn't understand my kind of stance on what was going on. For me, I was trying to explain to them that we need to sort of consider all the deaths through suicide, cancer appointments being missed, diabetes. There's a guy that was living across the road from me who's since lost the use of his legs because of, I don't know whether it was the arm spear or whether it was his untreated diabetes, but he wasn't being seen by the NHS. And so anyway, it gets to the point in this conversation where they're getting quite exasperated with me. They didn't say conspiracy theorists, but they almost did. And this Claire said to me at one point, "You don't really believe that they would make vaccination compulsory in Britain, do you?" And I said to her, well, no, they won't do that. But what they will do is that they'll tie your medical status to your ability to work, your ability to go to the pub, your ability to go to the supermarket, your ability to go to football match. So they'll coerce people into it. So this issue of passports, let's say, so this remains kind of YouTube friendly, is obviously no longer a conspiracy theory, Claire, is it? It's actually reality. And what I want to know is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep on going along with it? Or are you going to be like Bonhoeffer and are you going to stand up for it? Stand up against it, rather. At the very least, you could resign. If everybody withdrew their compliance, this would stop immediately. And we need to stop it now at this vaccine passport stage, because if they get the vaccine passport, which is really going to be digital IDs rolled out, then the road's completely open towards central bank digital currencies. and social credit systems like they already have in China. So do you want to live as a slave or as a free person? Now is the time to make a stand. And if it means that you have to give up your job and resign out of principle, then do it. Stand up for what's right. That's what I'm urging you to do. Stand up for what you know is right. The thing that I'd say, to end all of this is that I firmly believe as a Christian, but also as a human being, that you don't get away with anything. We will all be judged according to our actions. So stand up for what's right and do not even tacitly support this system of medical apartheid that's going to be rolled out with vaccine passports, because that is exactly what it is. In the past, history is pretty clear on this. Terrible things have happened when governments start discriminating against their own citizens on the basis of things like religion, race, or in this case, your health status. Okay, that's it for me. I emigrated to Finland, and it's the best thing that I ever did. So stuff you, Boris Johnson, and your COVID Nazi state.